This episode is brought to you by Code 42. Every day, your employees are moving files, uploading, downloading, emailing, attaching. A lot of that data has left your organization, and you may not even know it. Learn how Code 42 Insider can protect your most valuable data at code42.com.
On the Haunted Road podcast, join Amy Bruni, star of the hit TV show Ghost Hunters, for a guided tour of America's most haunted locations and hear from the expert paranormal investigators who've experienced these places firsthand.
You'll be in the building all alone and you'll hear conversations down the hallways. It'll be more than one person. When you're in that building, it just really feels like something's just standing over your shoulder.
Listen to Haunted Road with Amy Bruni on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, welcome back to Tell Me About It. Or if this is your first time listening, thanks for joining the party. I'm your host, Jade Iovine, and every Tuesday, my guests and I get very, very real about all the less than perfect moments of our very imperfect lives. And remind each other that even the most successful women that we idolize and constantly compare ourselves to also deal with rejections, losses, mistakes, insecurities, and inevitable shitty moments. My one and only hope with this show is to make women feel less alone by realizing that the women we think have it all figured out actually struggle in the same ways that we all do. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone in going through something can make you brave enough to get out from hiding under the covers or stop that shame spiral dead in its tracks. At least I know it always has for me. Okay, back to why you're here. Today, we have Gwen Stefani on the show. Unless you live under a rock, you probably know who Gwen is. She's been an icon for nearly 30 years and is just the coolest, most authentic person who's managed to stay so true to every aspect of herself for her entire, very prolific career. Gwen's been a big part of my life since I was born. For a little backstory, my dad started a music label called Interscope Records and signed Gwen and No Doubt in 1991. I was born in 93, and my childhood was just colored by memories of her career. And she's always been like a part of the family. For example, Gwen's first wedding was at our house, and it's funny because I have very few memories of the actual wedding because me and my siblings left in the middle because our dog decided to give birth that night, so we thought that was much more important to witness than the wedding itself. I always gravitated towards Gwen. I was obsessed with her, and still am. But when I was 8, I actually got my first AOL email account, Baby Jade 14, and I stole her email from my parents' contact list and would just email her constantly, back and forth, and she responded, which was the nicest thing ever. It just goes to show she's always been insanely kind, generous, and patient above all else. Even though I've known her my entire life, it was a whole different beast to get to interview her. I swear it felt like a dream and I blacked out from start to finish. It was so surreal. We sat down a week ago, right after her wedding, and seeing her beaming with happiness was so sweet. But of course, I had to take her back to before she found her happy ending. She opened up to me about body image, heartbreak, finding her voice, how her learning disabilities and other life experiences affected her confidence, being hard on herself, feeling lost, and so much more that I'm so excited for you to hear. I learned things about Gwen that I definitely didn't know before, and I'm beyond grateful she came on the show and was so open about the things that make her, this superhuman, human. I feel like Gwen needs very little introduction, so let's just get right to it. Here is Gwen Stefani. Hi, Gwen.
How are you? This is crazy. I'm like, wait, you grew up.
Well, congratulations to
Thank
start.
you. I know, total honeymoon vibes right now. It's
my God, are you blissed out? Are you so happy?
Yeah, it was literally the greatest moment of one of the greatest moments of my life, obviously. But I mean, it was beyond what I thought it was going to be. But
it looked like heaven. It looked like heaven. I'll let you reveal all of the details, obviously, on your own time. But got those boots. Can we just talk about the boots, the cowboy boots?
Well, I mean, honestly, you know what was fun about, besides all of it? It was beyond dreamy. But I think the crazy part was just it was just so unexpected in my life.
Yes.
So to try to choose like an outfit, like
Right.
a wedding gown and all that, it was like, I had no idea what it was going to be. But honestly, I tried on one dress and then I was like, I don't know, that didn't feel right. And then I tried another one on. I was like, oh, that's the one. And it was like,
perfect.
say yes to the dress. And then I just went with it. And
Did you know you wanted it short?
I didn't know anything. I feel like when you're me and you're as like lucky and blessed as I've been to wear some outstanding dresses, you don't know, like you can't, when you, I don't know, it's really hard to like, and it's such a big deal for me. Like I care
Completely.
about that stuff.
Yes.
So no, I had so much fun and picking it and working with Vera, and Rob and Marielle helped me a lot. So it was just a really amazing thing. I swear, you're the first person I'm talking to since.
Oh,
so.
Jesus. Okay,
I'm
great.
like,
No
what?
pressure or anything. But I just wanted to say congratulations first,
thank
because
you.
I'm so excited for you. Like, I was listening to like your Essentials playlist the other day on Shuffle, and Don't Speak came on first. And then right after, Anywhere But You, that you sang with Blake, came on. And it was just this crazy, surreal moment where I was like, it's the same girl singing, but just like, I feel like you're home now.
That's a really good way to put it. I actually feel that way. It feels like that, and it feels awesome. So I just feel so lucky. And I don't know, I think one of those things that you think about a lot in your life is you don't know the future and you don't know what's going to happen. But I feel like my spiritual journey has really guided me towards this place and this place of peace, and just sort of now I just need to figure out how to do the rest of my life.
I think it will all be smooth sailing from here, aside from the 3 boys and the craziness that comes with that. So you and I have known each other, let's just go back a little bit, for 27 years. I'm 27 years old.
Wow.
You have been in my life from the second that I was born. Isn't that weird?
That's so weird. I was trying to tell Blake, I was like, I think I knew her since she was like 2, or I just remember the first time going to your house in Malibu was when you had the Malibu house. And that was before I knew like that even Malibu people existed and that there was rich people in the world. And I was like, what? Like driving down PCH trying to not miss like the entrance to this gigantic gate and this like football field of grass. And I remember getting out of the car and like walking in, and your mom being stunningly gorgeous, and Jimmy just being terrified of Jimmy, and like, and we walked upstairs, and your mom had this incredible like playroom that looked literally like a preschool in your house, and I was like, wow, this is how people roll. Like this is so cool. But yeah, there was so many of you that I didn't know if you were born yet. But you were the baby.
I was the baby. I am the baby. But you, because I think you signed to Interscope 1991, right?
That sounds kind of right.
I was born in 93.
So I was like, I'm really bad at dates, but I know I was like young, and I didn't know who your dad was. I didn't know who Jimmy Iovine was. I just was so naive about even what getting signed meant. Like, I just did what everybody told me to do. I was just kind of like, yay, I'm going to sing. I didn't even know I was going to be a singer. I was like, what do I do? Tell me what to do. I'll do it.
Just in it for the long haul, I guess.
I don't know. I wasn't. I was just, I don't even know what I was doing.
You're just wound up there somehow.
Exactly. And now I feel like I know what I'm doing a little bit, but I did not know then.
So let's start there. Because like on this podcast, we like to talk about our 20s because it's just a hellish time in your life that can be really beautiful, but also extremely painful because you just don't know what you're doing. You know, like a lot of people feel that way. So when did Tragic Kingdom come out? Like how old were you?
When Just a Girl was on the radio, I believe I was 26.
26,
so
okay.
Like basically I started in No Doubt when I was 17, and I was just in my senior year because I graduated when I was 17, so I was a little bit young. Yeah, and so my older brother was the one that kind of started the band with this guy, John Spence, and then basically we were just for 9 years just doing the band. Like, I mean, I was going to college forever. I was trying to figure out what I was going to be. I had definitely had like not struggled a lot in school. Like just, I didn't know that I had like dyslexia and ADHD and all these things that now I know because I have kids, so I know what that is. But so the band for me was like just the fun procrastination from school. And
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Where were you in college? I didn't even know you were in college.
I'm super smart. I was in
I know
college
you're
for
super
a long
smart.
time.
I know you're super smart, but I didn't know you went to college.
I did double time of college. No, I went to Cypress College, which is in Cypress, California. And that's like a community college. And basically I had to start from the start, like way over. Like I had beginning math, beginning everything.
Yeah.
And then I went to Fullerton. I transferred to Fullerton Junior College. And I finally got enough credits to go to Cal State Fullerton. And I feel like I was there for a couple years. And I was like, okay, finally I'm figuring this out. I'm going to be, because you're talking about the 20s. And by this point, I was like in my mid 20s. That's how long I was in college. And I still lived at my parents' house because we just all liked each other. And what was I going to do? Like I was very like young for my age and very naive. And my family was quite sheltering. So I just finally was like, I'm going to do art. Like I know that I'm good at art. I'm not as good as my brother, but I'll find something. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was taking a painting class and I was like, I'm going to paint me in like Orange County, Orange Crate art. And I'm going to be like holding orange. And so it's basically the cover of the Tragic Kingdom, but I was going to paint it. Like that was my idea.
Yes.
But then I feel like then Just a Girl came out. It was just like everything was a whirlwind after that. It just happened so fast.
God. So when you first came to the Malibu house until Tragic Kingdom opened, was that like a long period of time?
Your dad tortured us for a long period of time.
Oh, yes. That sounds about right. Yes.
No, we basically, I think when we got signed, we were like the second band signed to Interscope, I feel like. And it was like, at the time, it was kind of like Marky Mark,
Rodrigo.
Primus.
Yeah.
I think Four Non Blondes was way after that. But then, I mean, I'm just trying to think of people that were there at the time.
Yeah.
And then basically, I think Jimmy Jimmy, you know the story that what he said to me, right? Like,
no.
we did a showcase. So I didn't even know what all these things were, but the band was always like, okay, if we get signed, then we could put actually music out.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were a live band and we were doing really well. Like, we were like a big fish in a small pond. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like we wanted to put music out on a record. Like that was what we couldn't afford to do it unless we had a label do it. So we got signed, and this guy, Tony Ferguson, who's from England, who worked at this record company called Stiff Records, which was all like the ska bands that I loved growing up.
Yeah.
He was the one that said, you got to come down to see this band. He was working, I guess, for Jimmy at some point.
Okay.
And so then Jimmy came down, we did a showcase, and he pulled me aside and he goes, you're going to be a star. In 6 years, like this weird random number. And I was like, who is this guy? And he goes, yeah, he just said that. And then in 6 years on the dot, Don't Speak was #1 around the world. So he was right. Yeah.
That's
he was right.
so wild. Okay, I don't want to take a break, but we have to. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Alienware. The best experiences happen when you can explore and experiment, free of restraint, where you can become anyone you want and go anywhere you choose. That's why Alienware is more than just gaming technology. It's your portal to reject limits and find your freedom. Elevate your gameplay with the new Alienware X-Series laptops with 11th Gen Intel Core processors. Defy boundaries and start gaming now at Alienware.com.
I think a lot of us have had a moment that seems to change everything. Change is this ever-present force shaping our lives. But how does it really work? That's the question at the center of my new podcast, A Slight Change of Plans. I'm Dr. Maya Shankar. I'm a cognitive scientist who spent the last 2 decades studying how our minds work and how we change. In this podcast, I'll be having intimate, revealing conversations. You'll hear stories from Tiffany Haddish, Hillary Clinton, and Casey Musgraves. You'll also hear from a woman who left a religious cult and a Black jazz musician who convinced dozens of KKK members to leave the Klan. All of them have lived through extraordinary change. I hope you'll come away thinking differently about change in your own life. Listen to A Slight Change of Plans on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen.
It's so crazy. I feel like so much of my childhood was colored by your career. Just so many of my memories surround that. And you were always just this fundamental part of our family, it felt like, from the day I was born.
Well, you guys always make me feel like your family for me was always like so idealistic, you know what I'm saying? Because your mom being so stunningly beautiful, but also a mother, plus having Jimmy, like taking care of Jimmy, you know what I'm saying? Who we all knew was just like super eccentric and, you know, maniac. And then had it all under control with like having like her books and all her creative stuff. So I looked up to your family like, wow, because, you know, I come from like a family of 4 kids as well.
Yes.
So it's very similar, 2 boys, 2 girls.
Totally. And you have the Italian-Irish thing also.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And I always remember Jimmy saying about you that you were extraordinarily independent and very clear on who you were from a really young age.
Yeah.
And so I just remember just learning so much about how individual each one of you kids were, coming from these 2 really smart, eccentric parents, you know, and you were a very privileged family. Like I'd never seen something like that before, even though I know that I was privileged as well, in the sense that like I had 2 loving parents that, you know, that loved us and we were very taken care of in that way. But because you were talking about the 20s and you're 27 and for me 29 was when I wrote Return to Saturn, which was all about the like changing in life and how hard it is and how like you really question who you are and what you're doing and what does this all mean. And so I feel like you're about ready to get into that, which is
you're telling me. I'm like, it feels like crazy. Like, but Gwen, this is so crazy. I did not realize that the return of Saturn is like your Saturn return.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel like the dumbest person on the planet. I literally just realized that.
Well, I don't even know, like somebody had told me about that and it was very fascinating to me because I think that you're in your 20s, you're really trying to find the meaning of life and who you are and your purpose. And I mean, truly for me, if I could go back to that girl, I would just go, well, you had that already with your faith. You know, it was in you since you were a little girl. Kind of, that's why I was so always fascinated with you, because you had that in your heart. And that's kind of how I was. But you get lost along the way, you know, and you start to question it and you start to think you know better and you think you have some kind of control over something and you don't.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah.
What do you remember being insecure about when you were like 27, 28?
I think for me at that time, I had 2 pretty bad relationships. And so there was like a lot of insecurities, but not about me, not necessarily about like, I was such a passive kind of personality back then. But at the same time, I had like this creative, like visions all the time about like taking whatever pain I had and trying to share it in some way through music. And so that was just always what I did with whatever was going on. But I think the biggest insecurity was that the first relationship it was, you know, really one-sided, and I was very obsessive about the relationship.
As we all get, yes.
Yeah, and during that time in my life, I was so overwhelmed by thinking I was in love and what that meant that I was obsessed about it. And then when I got in my second relationship, it was so many insecurities with so much cheating and like, you know, that wasn't my fault that somebody else made me feel insecure. Right. So I think that made me super insecure just about myself. Like, why? Because when someone does that, you question who you are. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I think I also had all the normal insecurities that you would have as a girl. I never really felt like one of those girls, you know what I'm saying? I was just I don't know who I was. I look back now and I go, I was just like everybody else, but at the same time, I didn't feel like everybody else. Like I felt like I was just sort of like in this band with all these guys, just obsessed with this. It was just a very hard time, really confusing time.
It is such a hard time. And you were this superstar, you know, like, did that feel like it happened kind of overnight, or did it feel gradual to you?
It was incredible. I think the incredible part of the journey, there was like 2 parts to it. It was like discovering after, like, not being good at school, not knowing what I was going to be when I grew up, like not feeling like I fit in, which I mean, most people say this, you know?
Yeah.
I just suddenly found this gift that God had given me to be able to write these songs. I mean, honestly, no one taught me. Like, it just all of a sudden I wrote one and I was like, oh my God, that feels so right. Like, and then I just kept doing it. And the pain that I was going through, the rejection, all of the stuff that happened was feeding this like newfound like gift. And I was like, so it was very strange, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then by the time we had all these songs and this whole story of my pain, which was the Tragic Kingdom, comes out, but I'm still in the band with the guy that I'm obsessed with.
Exactly.
And then the band is sort of like super confused about like, well, why are they paying more attention to the lead singer? We're a band. We've been doing this for 9 years. Right. And then there was the guilt that I had for that, which
yes.
But then it was my story to tell. So it was like, of course people are going to pay more attention to the person. It was my story that people were connecting to.
Yes.
So, you know, I think it was really confusing for all of us at the time to like understand that attention.
Yeah.
But for me, for whatever reason, it didn't really affect me that much. I think I felt like I always was protected from the fame. I don't know why. It just never really.
Interesting.
It was more the relationship with the band that was like really like affected me.
Yeah, which I guess comes along
you know?
with the fame in a way. So when you first started writing songs, were you like, I can't release these? Like, these are way too personal. This is like my diary. And then I'm going to sing it to the guy that I'm writing about. Like, was that ever a question, or were you just like, screw it, I'm putting these out?
It was never a question. I just was so happy to have something that I was good at, like, yeah, finally.
No, I totally understand that feeling.
And I just was sort of like, I was very rebellious at that time. So when I turned 25, you could imagine, like, I had already written Don't Speak like a year or more, and Just a Girl. All those songs I'd written like a year or so before they even came out. So they were old, like, by the time they came out. And you know, I think that was like, it just felt really good to be like, yeah, see, I'm good. I wasn't over it, but I was like, you don't want me, but everybody else suddenly thinks I'm good and see what you're missing out. Like, that's when I went and I like dyed my hair blonde. Like, I really grew a lot during that year after the breakup, and I wrote all that music. That all happened really fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I was very empowered because of that, I think, like in myself, because I felt like, screw it. Like, I'm going to go do this then if you don't want me, kind of thing. So there was like that going on. But at the same time, we're talking about Tony, which everybody knows that. Hi, Tony. Yes. We were best friends, you know, and we still had a lot of fun together, and we were very passionate about the band, about the music. It was very strange. I think it's very strange. At the time, I didn't realize it, I don't think.
Yeah, like, it's hard to imagine being in that situation, but probably when it's happening, the world is moving so fast, you can't even focus on really what's happening, you know? But looking back, it's probably crazy that you're like doing this all with your ex-boyfriend. Is songwriting, how has it changed throughout your life? Like, what was it like when you were in your 20s versus now?
It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think that you'll never be as naive as you are when you're new and naive, and you're only new when you're new, you know? And so you have to really like enjoy those moments because they pass. And I think that talk about insecurity, I think as a songwriter, because it's such a gift that's given to you, and it's not something you have I don't believe have a lot of control of. And if you probably, the more you talk to writers, like even like your mom or anybody that is a creative person, like it's not like it's almost like you have to kind of open yourself up, and if it's meant to be, if God says that's what's good, then you'll get the song. You know what I'm saying? That's how I always saw it that way, because it's such a miracle, even when you're in the middle of it.
Totally,
what a miracle it is when you receive the song. So I think over the years, I've written a lot about, or talked a lot about, how insecure I am about songwriting, because it's just such a bizarre thing. You know, it's hard to. I don't technically know music. I just channel this thing that happens. So I had a lot of fun writing this year. I actually didn't expect to write at all, and I ended up through like quarantine going in and doing these Zoom sessions with people, and it was really fun. Like I wrote like 20 songs in like 8 weeks. Like, it was this really quick, like I mean, with a lot of help. I mean, these people I'm working with are so talented, but then it sort of like went through a phase where I'm like I kind of put a couple songs out and it was like, and then I was like, well, I'm going to get married. So I'm just, I think I'm just going to like take a pause. Like no one's really like, who cares? Like, I'm just going to wait.
We're all focused on the wedding anyway.
I know. Like, I just want to enjoy the moment because you learn the older you get that these moments are just, they're passing by so fast. And you just want to sometimes take a pause and go, okay, I'm just going to absorb this for a minute.
No, I think that's like the benefit of finding this insanely amazing love later in life is that you can actually savor the moments and be in it.
Yeah.
And be present. So is it easier for you to write songs when you're happy or when you're sad?
I don't know. I mean, this album that I just worked on feels like I wanted it to be a happy album. I think every album had an intention, like even if I didn't like know, because, you know, Tragic Kingdom was just, it was like the Lord going, this is what you're going to do. And me just going, oh, but it hurts. I'm hurting. And then I just made this whole record. And I don't even know how I did it. It is a true miracle. I literally had no idea what I was doing.
It is a miracle.
And then when I came back after a world tour and, you know, having like, we were gone 2.5 years or something. We came back and that was a really hard time. That was like right when we did Return to Saturn. And I felt like I really put a lot of pressure on myself to want to like be a good writer and like do it myself and all these things. And I think there's a lot of great writing on the album. And some people say to me that that's their like favorite life-saving.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, but for me, like, I wish I could have edited myself more or had more help, you know what I mean? Like to organize it. But
are there songs you would have left off or something or?
I think that there's just things about it that I just know I could have done better on that record for me, you know, and I don't listen to it. It's way too painful for me. Like that record has so much stuff in it that nobody would know what it is, but I know what it is. And so I just try to avoid listening to that one. I don't listen to any of them, but
I listen to all of them. It's fine.
Oh, I love it. It makes me so happy other people listen to them. But with Rocksteady, that was like, the intention was joy, you know, like let's just be free and let's just have fun and let's just make something fun. And it was a really fun record. Like the band was finally open for the first time to working with other people. And for me, my favorite stuff I've ever done ever in my life, whether it's designing, whatever it is, music, is collaborations, you know, that's where I think I shine, you know, to inspire 100%. Other people, you know, so that record was like full of so much talent and we were able to sort of like grow as writers, you know?
Definitely.
And then, so each one has a different, and this one was all about like just trying to, again, make something that's fun, that go back to my roots. Like remember when I was in 8th grade and I discovered ska music and reggae and
So what's the hardest song? What was the hardest song for you to release? And like, maybe that is the same song that's the hardest to perform. Like, is it something from Return of Saturn that's like really vulnerable or like?
Honestly, like once they're captured and the songs feel like these little, like, I don't know, they capture that time, like that period, and it feels like it's like you healed after you have it, and so you don't really. It's not like you don't go back every time when you're singing the song and remember what it was about, but it doesn't have the same. I don't know how to describe it.
Like, I know what you mean. It doesn't like have the same hold on you.
A lot of the songs that are the really crazy ones for me weren't the singles anyways. They're the songs probably a lot of people didn't hear.
The deep cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when do you feel like you first found your voice? Because to everyone else with your pink hair and bindies and braids, it's like you were just larger than life and always have been, with red lips and like just the North Star of feminism and cool and everything. You know, I have a feeling that it didn't always feel that way to you. Do you remember when you found your voice?
Well, I have always been very like lucky to have a vote and like to like people to like, as far as my small circle, you know, my opinion was always respected. And so like, I want to talk about like my small circle. That's like my band, you know what I'm saying? Like we all had our roles that we played. and that we were good at. And I think we all kind of stayed out of each other's way and leaned on each other. And that's why I think we were a band for so many years, and we were friends, you know? And so, yeah, like, even though like we talked about, there was things that were hard for us, at the same time, we all took it so seriously in the sense that we loved it so much and we were so passionate about what we did. So I think that like, it was just, once I could write a song, that's when I feel like I found my voice. Like the first song I ever wrote was a song called Different People, which I always love bragging. Like I bet I actually ended up that song on Obama's playlist. Cause it's it was such an innocent, like even when I listen to it, I'm like, you know, you'd be embarrassed. You're like, ooh, that's my first song. I feel like once I learned that what writing a song is, like what it could feel like, it's so addictive. Like once you write the song, you just want to like watch it and hear it over and over and over again. And then once it kind of comes out, then you just never listen to it again. But it's almost like the dream of what it is. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the process of being creative is what I love more than even like eating the cookie at the end. Like it's more about the dream or like what it could be or what people might think. And like that's the part I'm addicted to. So that's why I think I got to a point where even right now at this time in my life, writing this record, writing it was what was so amazing. Like the dream of it. Yeah.
That's what you'll remember.
It, you know?
Yeah. I love that. God, I just love seeing you like so happy. But of course, I have to take you back. So let's go back to when regarding finding your voice. Take me through the process of when you decided to start your solo career. Because I know that must have been really hard with the band. And, you know, did that take a whole new level of finding your voice to do that?
I think so. I think a lot of the stuff, because the way I believe is that there's a plan, a bigger plan. It's all out of your control. And so I think that when we had done the Rocksteady album, there was such a feeling of satisfaction in that album. And I could tell, like, even like just the way people saw our band, it was different. Like, it just felt like we were in like that we got our Grammy. Like it just felt like a really cool part of our career, that whole album.
Yep.
And Adrian at the time had gotten married. He was the first one of us to get married. And because we were so serious about the band and our relationship to each other and dedicated to each other. So getting married is like, that's a huge change, you know? And they wanted to have a baby. And it was time for us to take our first break that we were ever going to take. And you could tell that Adrian was getting burnout. And now, like at the time, I was a little bit like, wow, he doesn't care as much about the band, you know, but now that once I got married and had kids, then I could see what happens, it changes, you know? And so we decided we were going to have a hiatus, like have a break. And it was, I don't remember going, oh, I want to do this now. It was literally an automatic thing that I was like, I want to do a dance record. I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. It wasn't anything to like break away from the band. It wasn't anything to try to like have this huge solo career. It was just like, I did that kind of music, but there's this other kind of music that was the backdrop to my life in high school growing up that I wanted to like almost, it was almost like a guilty pleasures type album. Like, you know, this other kind of music that I loved as well. So, you know, me and Tony, like we talked about it. I was like, it's the kind of music that me and Tony liked too. You know what I'm saying? Tony actually turned me on to a lot of that music. So I was like, you can help me do it. And it was just sort of like, it was going to be this kind of artistic project that there was no rules. And that's kind of how that started. But it was very like a snowball effect because I was in such a creative, like inspired place in my life. I wasn't married yet. I didn't have children. I was like, I feel like I might have just gotten married during that time period. I can't remember. 2000. I don't know the dates, but
I should know. I feel like I was there for that wedding. Yes.
You were there for the wedding.
Yes.
I feel like I just was in a really creative place and I didn't want to just I was like, oh my gosh, I have this huge opportunity. And your dad actually, he just seemed so supportive of everything I was doing at that moment that I felt like, you know, he was, I guess, A&Ring the project. So I just felt quite like, I don't know how to describe it. I just felt like the world was my oyster. Like I could do anything.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was scared, and I was like worried about, like, I didn't plan on touring. I was just going to do this creative album and it was going to be over. But once I put the record out, and like every song that was written, it just, more ideas would come. And the idea of finally having this imaginary girl posse, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that would take me back to Japan, which was like, you know, my fantasy, because basically my obsession with Japan was that my dad worked for Yamaha motorcycles my entire life. So a Japanese company. So he would travel there, and you have to think like back in those days, we didn't have the internet or cell phones or anything. So we weren't connected in that same way. So he would come home, and I'm like 5, and he would bring me a kimono, or he would bring me like Japanese candy, or like things that would be these huge treasures. And he'd been gone for like 3 weeks. Like it was different back then.
Totally.
So I was always obsessed with wanting to go to Japan. Like, and then when I finally got to go in the 90s, with No Doubt, I fell in love with this Harajuku, which my dad had told me about this area, Harajuku. So like when I went there the first time, I was like, okay. And I like related so much to, I was such a fan of the culture being so traditional, yet so like futuristic and modern at the same time. And so then that was just a huge inspiration for me to want to have these, like, I've never had dancers. I never got to do costume changes. I never got to do all that girly stuff that I loved, you know, and be theatrical and be dramatic and all the stuff that those records ended up being. And so once I made them, it was like, okay, I got to do it live. Like I have to do it live.
Of course.
And then of course, when I did that first tour during the rehearsals, I not only twisted my ankle like really badly, I got pregnant. So
my God.
I was like, okay, I'm pregnant now on this tour.
like,
And
okay.
I was throwing up like I literally got nauseous during certain songs because like I got nauseous during this song called Serious, because I used to spell.
I love that song.
Serious. I would be like so worried I was going to spell it wrong. But I would get sick.
Was that the only time in your life you retired the crop top, when you were pregnant?
I feel like I didn't until like I was 4.5 months pregnant when I stopped touring on that.
God.
I know. Like, so I just remember being miserable, like feeling fat, like everything. They would have to come out and like release my clothes. Like you could see how the costumes like changed.
Totally.
And it was for some reason trying to keep it quiet. And I guess because, you know, anything could happen. So you're not supposed to say anything. So, and I guess I just wanted that to be my tour. I didn't want people to be focusing on that I was pregnant, you know what I'm saying? And it was like a really weird time.
God, I didn't realize that. That's so crazy.
It's the first time I ever did like costume changes or anything, and I was playing with a whole new band and dancers, and it was like a whole new thing. So but the tour was really short. It wasn't that long. Then I came back and went from that and had the baby. And that's when Jimmy was like, you got to go in and work with Akon. And I was like,
I will never forget for the rest of my life. I was sitting in like, I don't know why we called it the bird room. There was a bird room in our house, which is so weird. But I was sitting in there, and my mom came out and said to my dad and said, oh, Gwen had her baby. And my mom writes pregnancy books. So my mom is like beaming, and my dad runs, like doesn't even celebrate for 2 seconds, runs to the phone and calls you and says, you got to get it, like in the hospital, I assume. I'll never forget that. I was like, okay, I'm raised by an animal. This is insane. Like, this is just like ridiculous that you're calling her right when she had a baby about this new record that you want. It's so crazy.
It was crazy. And I think that because we all knew we were on borrowed time, and it was just going to, you know what I mean? And the fact that I had written so many songs for the record, the original the Love Angel Music Baby record, that like I kind of could have put another record out, and there was a lot of good songs. I just needed to kind of fill in the gaps. And so I think he just didn't want to lose momentum. And remember, like at that time, things were changing so much in music. Like we were, from my first solo dance record to the second one, like it was a different format of music. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think he was just like racing to try to like, from his angle, like whatever he had to do.
God bless you for being understanding.
I I love him. I do.
Yeah.
I would not be here if it wasn't for him, but I
Me
just,
too.
I know, but I love him. And so I basically was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going in the studio. My baby is it was, I think 9 weeks at that time. So, like they're just starting to smile.
Totally.
Like I never had a baby before. Like this is my first time. And he's like, come on, you got it. He goes, if there's anything you do in your life, Gwen, anything in your life, you got to go to this session. And I was like, wow. So I packed up my baby and my boobs because I'm nursing the baby and my baby nurse. And I went to the session and I walk in. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be working with a rapper. This makes no sense at all. What am I doing? I hate you, Jimmy Iovine. And then when I walked in, the moment I walked in, he was like my homie. Like it was like we had known each other already. It was very strange, very, very strange. And we wrote Sweet Escape, which was one of my biggest hits.
Thank God that worked out. Jesus, that's amazing. So you, I feel like, are the epitome of confidence and just like what it looks like. And has it ever, no, I know that might sound weird to you, but like that's how you are to other people. Like you just are this light. But I wonder, like, do you remember specific times in your career where your confidence really wavered?
Of course. I mean, it always does. I mean, I think that the one place where I remember, like you asked me before, like when did I get that? I guess you said power or like whatever it is. I also have a very strong memory of, because there's two things. It's the songwriter, but then there's like the performer part, which is they're one and the same, but they're not. And
that's interesting. When you're not a performer, you think of them as the same thing.
Yeah, I think that like the songwriter part is really real. Like it's very you, and it's like you're literally taking people into your heart. Yeah. And then as the performer part, it's almost like the you want to be, you know what I mean? Or that is you, but it's, you learn how to like sort of like manipulate the people that believe you're something more than you could possibly be, even yourself. Like you're like, I am a superhero version of me. That's just, and I can remember the first time that that happened, and we had gone, like, I don't know, people don't know the whole backstory, but there was another singer called John Spence who was the lead singer, and I was like, we sang together. Well,
No Doubt.
Yeah, with No Doubt from the very beginning. And he died like the first year. And so when he died, I was like, well, we got to get another singer. And so the other kid that was in the band, Alan Mead, he played trumpet and he was singing. And so he ended up singing with me. And then he got his girlfriend pregnant when he was like 15 or something. So then he was out. So then it was just me. And I can remember one of the first shows we ever did, and it was just me. I just remember something coming over me on stage, and it clicked, and it was like this superhero thing that happened. And I can remember walking to the car, like we played some tiny club, and I was walking to the car in the parking lot on the way home going, oh my gosh, like that feels so good. Like that feels so real and right. But even though it was like I was faking in a way, it's hard to describe it. So it was just like again, like this channeling thing that happened. Yeah. So I think being able to like take the songs and I don't know, like share the truth of what happened to me on stage in a theatrical way is just something that makes people believe that I have confidence, but I'm just a normal person.
No, I mean, it's the most convincing thing in the world.
I think it's like when you're performing, like it's almost like riding a bike. It's like you don't do it, and then all of a sudden you do it, and you do it again, and it's like part of who you are. You can, you are a bike rider, as well as you can walk, and you can do all these things. But like for me, it's just one part of who I am, and I think honestly, the one thing that like I think the one thing that I learned through life is that the people we like love the most and admire the most are the people that are the most genuinely themselves. And that's what makes people believe that you're confident, because if you are just you, well, how can someone argue with that? You know what I mean?
So true.
So maybe that's, I just try to be myself as much as possible, because if I'm not, then I just know I'm going to be found out. So why would I, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That would be horrifying to be a liar. I do not want to be ever a liar.
Yeah, right. So as far as confidence, what gets to you today? What is able to knock your confidence today?
I feel like the one thing that comes with growing older is you sort of really like right now, because I'm not really focusing on career as much. I feel like I rang that bell a few times, and it's like once you ring it, it's great. But like I said, you really realize that it's the journey that you're on as opposed to winning. And so, because number one feels the same as being in the garage and the Beacon Street house. And like, you know, it's like, it kind of doesn't really change anything. I mean, having the freedom of like winning financially is wonderful, because then you can continue to be creative and be indulgent and all those things. Of course, that was like a great thing to happen, which I left my parents' house on tour, and I had like $1,000 in a bag of makeup. And so I hadn't even moved out of my parents' house. So
oh my God,
I definitely I appreciate that. And I was talking to Blake about it this morning, just how hard we have worked, like the kind of work that we didn't even know we could do. You could do it, as far as like the hours and like the amount of hours, and just 100%. Like sleeplessness and like just physical, you know, work, but all super fun because you're doing the stuff that you love to do. So very blessed, you know. But I don't know. I think right now I'm in a pretty good place where all I want to do is whatever I'm supposed to do, and I want to fulfill my purpose, you know, as a person on this earth. And right now, the most important role that I'll play is going to be as a mom. You know, everything else I've done that. Like, I'm doing the mom thing. I always knew that at this point in my life, I was going to have a teenager. That I was going to.
Is Kingston a teenager?
Yeah, he's 15.
Oh my God. So, that's probably how you feel with me, but that's so nuts. Jesus.
I know.
I remember his baby shower.
I know.
Like
he's growing up, and I just want to be like, I think it's amazing that I got to be like a singer and a songwriter and performer, and I got to be all the things I am, but being a mom is obviously like super serious, and like I just have to get it right, you know? So I'm just focusing on that. So it's when you're doing that, when you're actually giving and like being that role, playing that role, there's not a lot of time for being insecure about yourself. Right. You know what I mean? You just want to like, slap them. Make sure that they be good people, you know?
Yes. No, totally. So you've been this mega star for so many years. I want to know, like, being a female celebrity in the late 90s, early 2000s, what was it like then versus now? Like, was it harder to be a celebrity then? Like, I was watching some of your old interviews and like how people used to talk to you. Just
what were they doing?
Well, just like commenting on your body, or like saying just like male like talk show hosts, just like how unabashedly like gross they could be was insane, and just tabloids and everything. But now there's the internet, and I wonder like what the juxtaposition is there.
I definitely think it's harder now. Yeah, I mean 100%. I mean, you can't even barely be yourself without being, you know, you can't get it right ever. So I think it's really changed like dramatically. And I feel like we had a lot of more freedom back then, you know, to be, you know, even things that like, I feel like were accepted back then just aren't now. So it's like, it's just a different culture is just changing so quickly, but definitely feel like we had like, it was just a different time. Like, it was really fun to be able to release music or to be part of different like cultural things that we all had our eyes on. Like, you know, everybody watched David Letterman, or everybody listened to this station. So we were all united in whatever we were doing. And it was like, it was an event. Like, it really felt big, and it really like an award show was really like an award show, you know, and now it just feels different. It feels like there are a lot more opportunities to have platforms and to have a voice, and, you know, I don't know. It's just a completely different world, and hard to describe it. But I was very lucky to have had a little bit of both, you know what I'm saying? So like I was telling you, like during my solo period, I feel like that was when things were shifting a lot.
Definitely.
And I think that it was like this crazy time, because I think you don't realize how many people you're still reaching, because it's just, you can't count it the same way. I don't know.
Totally.
It's different. I think for me, like, none of it's real, obviously.
Yeah.
None of it's my life until like you're face to face with it. Like,
Yes.
I'm face to face with you in a Zoom and you're telling me stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's how you see it.
Yes.
Okay. But like, it's not real until it's real. Like, until I do a show and I see actually the people that know the songs or know the lyrics, or someone tells me like, this happened to me. Then you're like, okay, I had an impact on someone. That's kind of something I never thought I would do in my lifetime. It's kind of great.
Oh
you
my,
know?
and you have, I mean, to say the fucking least, like you are
You're
just
crazy.
you're an icon. Like, I'm literally sweating through this interview. I'm like nervous. I'm like, yes, I'm nervous. I'm like, cause I just look up to you so much and I think you're just amazing and I love you. Okay, we got to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Transportista is a podcast that tells the story of a pilot who, using a clandestine cell phone from inside a prison in North Carolina, claims to have worked as an entrepreneur and air logistics coordinator in the international drug trade for some 30 years.
I'm Transportista. That's what I am.
My name is John Gibler. I'm a journalist based in Mexico. I was approached to see if I would be interested in looking into this pilot's story. Yeah, I said, I'm interested. I contacted a number of reporters who had either met, interviewed, or reported on this pilot.
He didn't want to tell the truth, he wanted to sell the truth.
And began to piece together a portrait of a man behind bars, obsessed with telling and selling his own story. From Detective and Exile Content Studio, this is Transportista. Listen to Transportista on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Paper Ghost returns with an investigation into a tragedy that took place deep in America's heartland in a tucked-away Ohio town where a massive farmhouse belonging to a wealthy family erupted in flames.
The flames are everywhere.
All 4 residents inside were dead, and not a single person died from the flames or smoke. So the question becomes, what killed them? Or, more importantly, who?
My brother says, Carol, something's up. There is too much blood.
This season, I'm not chasing a missing persons flyer. I'm chasing a wanted poster.
That's how the mob works. They don't leave anybody.
I didn't want nobody to know what I was doing, because if they did, I wouldn't have lived till next day.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So I think a lot of people have a misconception that because of who you are somehow exempt from feelings of comparison. But when you were first starting out, did you compare yourself to other women, or do you do that at all today?
I definitely think I have. I just never saw myself in a certain category, which there's these, like, I guess that you could break it down to like the old school, high school. Like, you had
clicks.
the cheerleaders, the popular people, the weirdos or whatever.
Yes.
I don't really necessarily saw myself, like I was in marching band. Like I was in that kind of group of people. Like
in high school.
In high school.
Yeah.
Like I literally went to band camp. Like I was, so like, and I don't think I just never saw myself as that.
Interesting.
Whatever that is. And also you got to remember back, you said a lot of women there wasn't a lot of girls in bands. Like there, certainly in the group, the kind of music we were doing, there was very little. And so I think it was just very unusual. And I think the way that I was kind of, my DNA was, I was just very passive. So I didn't really think a lot about that stuff.
Yeah.
I just was very much in my own world, like a fantasy world, like, sitting in high school, like, drawing on my notebook going, how would I sign my name if I married Tony? Like, you know what I mean? Or like, what would I, these are the kind of thoughts I would have. Or,
very normal.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have a show coming up. I'm going to go to the thrift store and I'm going to make I've got my sewing machine and I'm going to make it was all about what am I going to wear? You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to do my hair? Like,
right.
You know, and I would obsess over these things. I would stare at the girl sitting next to me in class with flawless makeup on. Like,
yes.
She would always like be putting her makeup on during class. Like, I was really obsessive about the things that I was obsessed about, and to a flaw.
Totally.
So, yeah,
but I assume that like people would try to pin you against other female celebrities or artists. You know, like, did that ever penetrate?
Well, I think for sure I didn't really see it so much. There was other artists that kind of sometimes tried to start stuff, but I don't think I was in the same lane as anybody as far as like categories. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not confrontational. I'm not very competitive. Like, I just, you know, I am at certain things. I'm competitive with myself about wanting to like do something great and be creative and be, but like, as far as like winning, like, I don't know. I never played sports. I'm not into sports. Like, this is not who I am. But I think that like at the time there was like just, you know, there was people like Jewel, like, you know, and yes, was I jealous of how pretty she was? Yes, I was, you know, or there was like Alanis Morissette, you know, was I jealous that she could write such amazing lyrics? Of course I was, you know, inspired, jealous, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then there was like there was like L7, like, it's like, well, that's not what I do. That's not what I am. So I don't really feel like I fit into any of the different kinds of girls. You know, then there was, you know, Shirley Manson from Garbage, but she was like definitely a lot more hardcore and just confident, you know, like that was different from who I was. So I don't know. I think I was just somewhere in my own world. I don't know how to describe it. I didn't even think to compare myself because I couldn't compete with any of that. I wasn't the same. It was like comparing apples and oranges, as they say. Like, how do you compare it, you know?
Yeah. So what would be your advice to someone like that's, you know, 27, for example, that finds themselves comparing themselves physically, professionally, personally to all these people? Like, we're just online constantly and it's hard not to.
It's very, very, very hard. I don't know, especially I think for females, it's impossible because the influences that we have and it's like all about sharing and like trying to get people to like you. And it's so, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to say. I just think that the one thing that always saved me was, again, to just embrace who you are as an individual, you know, because nobody can be that but you, you know, and it's like, it's kind of an obvious thing, but it's not easy to do.
Right.
But I don't know. I think we all have something that we're good at. And I think you just need to like really open your eyes to what that is. And then, you know, but again, like if you really are going to ask me, like, I mean, I live by that. Like, I live by my faith, and you know, it's something that I don't want to like shove it down anyone's throat. But you just ask. You are asking me, and that's truly where I turn. You know, I turn to. So that's how I've navigated my life.
That's incredible. So, you know, something that no woman is exempt from is like body image and just having issues with that. And you have been on every single magazine cover known to man. Like, have you ever struggled with body image, and when was it worst?
I did, of course, my whole life. You know, when I was little, I was a little bit chubby. Like, I had to always really work really hard at getting a body that I wanted. Like, what's interesting is my dad, who has been pretty much obese, and I'm not making that up. Like, you've seen my dad. Like,
I love your parents so much.
He just comes from a family that was, you know, Italian, like they were bigger or whatever. But my dad just this year, like, lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
By just like diet and exercise, like
shredding for the wedding.
It's well, he didn't even know. He did it actually the last couple years, so we're just so proud of him to see
that's
him.
Amazing.
You know, I think that once I finally got to being a senior, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to be. I want to be what I want to be, and what I want to be is I want to wear the clothes that I want to wear, and so that means I need to do this. So I think my dad is quite a disciplined person, and I think I am a really quite disciplined person. I never used to think I was. I think I was just really hard on myself about it. But once I made my mind up to say, if I want, I know I have to do this and this to get this. So I'm going to do it. And that's when I would just, and I'm just like everyone else, like I'll fail. Like this weekend I failed. I was I was like, okay, that's it. The wedding is over. Get your like you just blew your diet so bad. Like, what are you doing? And then of course I made like 100 excuses of why I'm on my honeymoon and I need to order everything I want from Postmates.
Yes. But I fully agree with that.
But I think it's one of those things. We all want to try to be perfect, whatever that is, and there is no such thing. And so we just do our best. I think for me, it's all about just trying to be the best version of who I can be. Like there's no perfect with it. And definitely different times through my career that I definitely look back and I go, oh.
Was postpartum hard for you? Body-wise?
Being pregnant was hard. I wanted always my whole life to be pregnant. I just thought that would be so awesome. But when I couldn't give myself a break, like to the point where it's like, I wish I could go back and go, so why are you so mean to yourself? Like you were pregnant, like enjoy it. So anyone that's pregnant, just enjoy it. But also like, I think that afterward, again, if I didn't have like so many incentives to want to like get myself back into shape, or not even incentives, like pressure because like Jimmy's putting me in the studio and
Jesus.
Like the band being like, okay, I know a good way that we can get inspired. Let's go on tour after you had your second baby 4 months after. It's like really, really a lot. Like I'm lucky though, because I look at myself during that tour and I'm like, dang, my baby was 8 months old and I had an 8-pack. Like what? How did I do it?
It's inhuman. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's because I was on tour. Like, I mean, when you are nursing a baby and you have a toddler and you're doing a show, you do 60 of those, you get in shape. You don't have a choice. Like it just happens.
God, so. I think you have maintained that 8-pack for in human history. It's unbelievable.
It's not. It is seriously not. It is not. But did you watch the Pink documentary with her on tour? Yeah, I just watched that too. Hey, Pink.
Yes, she's the best.
And I was like, wow. I mean, she takes it to another level, like with all of like that, whatever she's doing on that.
No, what's it called, or whatever with the.
That whole thing that she does. I mean, I was like, and I could so relate to like the whole trying to do both, and it's impossible. You can't be a mom and do that. It's impossible. But luckily I was like so into the movie. I was like, she has such a great husband and he's like supporting her. Like,
and so do you. Now you do too.
Yes, I do.
He's the best. I'm like, I want to like really get to know him. I feel like I only know him relatively now, but he just seems like the best guy.
The thing about him, and I think, again, I said this earlier, why people are the successful people are the people that are the genuine people, because that man, he is the same guy that you see no matter who he's with, what he's doing, if he's, I look at him sleeping and he's the same guy. You know what I'm saying? He's just a good guy.
Consistent.
And he's very real and consistent and genuine. And so it's like, that I think is what is so attractive and why people love him so much.
150%. Has country music made you has it changed your songwriting at all? Is it more honest, do you think? Or is it?
When I started writing this year, I first wanted to do like a singer-songwriter kind of album. I felt like that was like where I needed to be. And I always wanted to do something like that. I really wanted to work and do that record with Busby, who passed like a few, how long ago was that? I can't even keep track of time. So then, because I had done my whole Christmas album with him and the writing process with him, he's such a genius. Like, I just was like, this is my partner for the rest of my life.
Yes.
I just thought that. But then, I don't know, like, I think the country music, it's not so far off from like the music I grew up on in the sense of being a child. Like I grew up in the 70s, so I listen to a lot what we call yacht rock nowadays, which was the popular music of the time. And my parents listened to bluegrass and folk. So I had like a combination of sort of 70s rock and bluegrass and folk, and a lot of that songwriting is quite similar to, I don't know, it's similar to kind of country in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense. But
it totally makes sense.
But I think what I learned about country that I didn't know, because I mean, if you're into bluegrass and you're into country, like those two people would be like, we are not the same. Like it is, you know what I mean? Like they'd be like, no.
Yes.
But like to someone on the outside, you could see that it feels similar. But I think the thing about like country that I learned over the last 6 years is just some of the songwriting is just so unbelievably good.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't, the more I learn about songwriting, the more I understand what's good and what's not. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just like how genius some of the songs are in the way that they tell the stories and how they actually end up with like, I love when they'll like end up with this line at the end of the chorus that sums up everything. And like, how did they do that? And it's so creative.
It's amazing.
But, yeah, I mean, just to be able to be like witness somebody else that's at the top of their game, that's a legend in their own time, Blake, in a different category of music. It's just really interesting because it's so different, yet it's exactly the same career in so many ways.
It's weird. Like, yeah, like I know, like, you know, people say like you're so different and blah, blah, blah. But like when I see you guys together and performing, it just seems like you're coming back to where you started, you know, like it feels the same to me, you know, like I feel like you guys are alike.
It is very true. And like, I think like being able to be part, like when I was at my parents' house and, you know, I'm in such awe of him as an artist, as a singer. Mm-hmm. And so like I was sitting at my parents, we were having breakfast and went to church or something. And he texted me and he was like, we obviously have to do this song together. And I was like, whoa, like I freaked out. Like that he would, cause like my fantasy in my brain would be that I could do a song with him, you know?
Yes.
And
was this while you were dating though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was Happy Anywhere. So that song was like, he sent it to me and I'd listened to it and I was like, oh my gosh, I started bawling.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, you asked me this song.
It's like better when he asked you to marry you.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And like, we'd already written 2 songs together because we had written a song called Break My Heart, which was, we wrote that like one of the first couple weeks we were together. But we never were in the same room. Like he sent me a song and then I finished the lyric and then whatever. And then the next song we wrote together was our Christmas song, which again, he sent me part of a song and then I finished the song. So to be on a song like Happy Anywhere, which is such a fun and totally different from anything I've ever done. I mean, that is a country song. That is like a country song. It's such a simple, amazing song. And so we recorded it and then his record's about to be done and we're in the gym and we're working out and he starts playing this other song called Nobody But You. He was listening to it because like he'll like, get songs and like just play them for me. And he always gets these incredible songs sent to him. Like the whole world is writing him these amazing songs. And I was like listening to it and going, oh man, I wish he would have put me on that song. Like in my heart, you know?
Yeah.
And he just like turned off the song and goes, shit, I wish I would have put you on this song. And he's like, I'm putting you on this one too.
Yes. Thank God.
So then that song ended up coming out first. And then Happy Anywhere came out during quarantine, it was kind of perfect. But to be part of, and the community, you know, was so unbelievably like generous to me and kind and welcoming. And it did feel very natural. And to be able to get up on stage and perform with him, and which we get to do something coming up and because his tour is happening. So I get to get up on stage with him a couple times. But yeah, that was an incredible, unexpected thing to be part of. And we had 2 #1 country hits on radio, which is like...
It's weird. It sounds like your voice, like, I don't know, the resonance in some way. It just totally fits. I don't know what it is either.
I just felt like,
meant to
be. For me, like to be able to bounce in so many different categories and genres through my entire career has just been probably, and not just in music, but to be able to travel the world and be part of different cultures, all that stuff. That's like the blessing of life, really.
100%.
Like just to have that variety and like, and to be able to like understand culture. Like, I mean, the country music culture, it's like, it's such an amazing thing that I just had no idea about,
true.
you know?
So true. Okay, I'm going to ask you like 3 more questions and then I will let you go. What are you hardest on yourself about? And has that changed since your 20s?
I think I'm probably hardest on myself about just wanting to produce whatever that is. If that means like produce being a good mom one day and like actually playing with my kids and like putting the time in that they need, like without being distracted on my phone or like into myself or wanting to be, you know, indulge in like me, whatever it is.
Yes.
Like that is something that I have a hard time not doing that. You know
Are you
what
a
I mean?
perfectionist?
I don't think I'm necessarily a perfectionist. I'm an obsessionist. I definitely have obsessive like nature. So like, for example, like this would be a good example and embarrassing, but I'll share it because I don't give a shit. Like yesterday we had nothing. We were doing nothing and we were watching movies and I was like, I'm going to shop online, like whatever, you know? And so I started shopping for ramen noodle bowls. Okay. Which I was very, very obsessed about. Like I love vintage china.
Yes.
I love dishware. I love that stuff. I always have my whole life. Like I love antiques. I love anything old. Like I think most people know that about me, but I do. So like, I think I looked for like 3 hours. I still didn't buy anything. Like, and I'm still, as we're talking, thinking about going back online and looking for more. It's like, that's just an example of how far it goes. But my researching and my obsession and that skill that I have, which is something that can be a problem, is probably one of my biggest gifts because that's how I do everything. If I'm interested in it, if it matters to me, then I can put it or more, like an embarrassing amount. So I guess I always say that to my like kids because I'm like, you just gotta find whatever it is you're obsessed about,
even if it's ramen noodle bowls.
Yes, I'm gonna have the best ramen noodle bowls.
I can't
when
wait.
I get them.
Yes,
I think I have to go back to Japan to get them.
I know. I was about to say that. It's true. It's true. Okay, so these are just little rapid fire questions, but what's a topic or concept you wish more women were open about or would stop lying to each other about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, right now, I just want to, I can't do rapid fire, by the way. It's impossible. I would say I would want to know more about just being a mom, like raising kids. Like, what's the right thing to do? You know? It's hard.
Oh my God, it's like the wild, wild west. It's so, I don't know, but it sounds hard. Okay, what's a way that you're working on yourself these days? Are you in therapy or is it something that you're reading, working out?
I just got a trainer for the first time in probably 6 years. So
no way.
That feels really amazing. See how long my rapid fire question answers are? But yeah, I've been working on my fitness. I have Vegas coming up in October.
I'm so excited.
So I have quarantine. Like I got to get really because I won't be able to sing and I can't physically do it.
It's true. It's like an endurance game.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That's what I'm working on right now.
Okay. And two last things. What's something that people that follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know? Or like, what's the most off-brand thing about you?
I like shopping for noodle bowls. I don't know. I think that people would be surprised to know that I'm just like them in so many ways, and I'm nothing more than that at all.
Yes, I beg to differ, but yeah. What is like the most embarrassing or weirdest thing that you do when Blake's not home? When you're home alone?
Oh, probably that obsessive shopping and not buying anything thing.
I do that too. Yes. Okay. So what do you have coming up? Everyone knows where to find you on Instagram and everything, but when does the Vegas residency start?
I think of the first show in October, and it's really going to be probably my last. I don't know if I'm even what I'm supposed to say about that, but I'm planning to do 8 shows. I think it is. Is it 8? And that sounds like a very small amount compared to the 60 that, yeah. So I think that's going to be done with the Vegas thing, which was incredible. And then I have the record and just trying to decide if I want to write some more songs or not. Your dad, by the way, has always made me so paranoid that I haven't done enough hard work.
Yes. Oh my God.
But yeah, I've been kind of like working a lot with somebody that I just started working with that I got really happy about. So I might go back and do a little bit more of that. And I have some other stuff up my sleeve, but I'm not sharing it yet.
Okay, perfect. Well, we can't wait. Thank you so much. I love you. Seriously.
I'm so happy that you turned out to be such a good girl and you're doing your thing. And like I said, your family's always been such an inspiration to me. And
we love you so much.
To see you at 27, like doing your thing, you're so beautiful.
Thank you. You're the best. I love you so much. Like,
Thanks
seriously,
for having me.
I really appreciate you doing this. Seriously. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I love you too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Mwah.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, that definitely goes down as one of the top 10 moments of my life thus far. I hope you guys